Hey there YouTube, I'm Yukitsu, this is the Yukitsu Times. Welcome to my channel. Welcome once again to Company of Heroes 2, playing once again as the Russians, as I haven't really necessarily figured this out quite as well as I would like to, so I'm continuing on playing it. As you can see, once again, we're up against a mixture of Germans, because that's how the game always sort of goes. I'm opposite the Oberkommando, which means that they're going to start off with these Sturmpioneers over here, which are significantly better than regular engineers of any other stripe. So you're going to see them actually starting with Sturmpioneers and an engineer squad, which is kind of bullshit actually, because the normally anybody else that rushes an MG is obviously not going to have an excellent close-in infantry unit. They're just going to have an MG. But the Oberkommando West does get the option to have like this really good machine gun, as well as the really good shock troopers, because the these Sturmpioneers act as a stormtroop type unit, which is ridiculously difficult to counter early game. The reason it's difficult to counter early game is you can see I've got nothing but long-range riflemen, and there's nothing really in this game that can prevent units from just closing the distance, and the distance sort of effectiveness between long-range rifle fire and short-range SMG fire is relatively minimal, but you know, when you're stuck in this situation, it's not too bad. We've managed to take over this flank over here because it's not got that, it's got the regular Germans, so they had to fight it the normal way with normal engineers here that are you can see are going ahead and fortifying their territory points instead of advancing quickly. I managed to pick off a couple of these Sturmpioneers over here before advancing just a little bit, but they've got this place with another unit of Sturmpioneers, so they're going to be able to hold out here quite well. I'm going to have to retreat back. I don't actually retreat these guys back though, I just end up wanting to sort of figure out what's in the area. I was going to take the building and get into a building-to-building fight where the rifles would be a little bit better than the Sturmpioneers, but unfortunately I'm getting hit by mortar fire, which means I have to leave. My guys managed to snake around the side of the building, but that's not really going to help here. In this particular case, all I can do is hold on to the points that I have. I can't really easily advance into this German position here, especially because I'm not actually fighting just the one unit of, or just the one Oberkommando West player. I'm actually facing units including like the sniper, the mortar crew, and these engineers from another German player. So they're actually sort of double teaming me a little bit here, but that's giving my allies chances to advance along the side here, including this little clown wagon is what they call this 3, but it's the M3A1 scout car, which has got a flamethrower in it. Very good sort of way to do things early game if you happen to want it. My troops are sort of snaking around the back of this building here since I want to sort of get a view, maybe take over this point if I can sneak in there, but it's going to be a little bit difficult, especially because I do believe the sniper is going to see me and I'm not going to be able to do a whole lot about it. At this point in time though, all I'm really concerned about is trying to limit the number of points that he's getting, disrupt him where possible, but it's going to be difficult. These guys are going to get completely freaking owned. They're just shooting some sticks right now instead of doing anything useful. I managed to move them before they actually got owned by anything there. I needed to path them all the way in a wide arc before retreating them because they decided to, when I hit the fleet command, they just run straight through all the enemy guns and get completely demolished. But conscripts, not too worried about that. I've got a mortar team. I'm going to have to use it to start taking down the fortified position that my opponent is sort of producing here. I've taken them off the fuel point, but I haven't captured it myself. In fact, I'm retreating these units back. All I'm trying to do is make sure I don't lose too many forces other than, you know, that one unit of conscripts I don't really care too much about. And I'm teching up to anti-tank grenades just in case my opponents are going for these early Kugelwagons, because he's the one that's going to be able to make those. Instead, they're bringing in infantry support guns, and they're really just trying to dig in here. So I kind of figure that this is what is going to be happening, so I actually am teching up as fast as I can for armor. And an early T-70 is again going to be quite useful. Here I'm just going to pound their position a little bit with my mortars. Their mortar teams for some reason are idle here, but they would be quite well served to have done something with it. They're picking off a couple of my mortar team with their sniper, so I have to retreat it back. But you know, I'm not losing this point over here, so I'm still gaining some use out of my position here. And down here we're doing quite well in holding, so that's the advantage. If they're trying to dig in really, really hard in one side, I don't necessarily have to be able to push in, I just have to make sure they don't push further into our territory. The problem is that they've also got this middle point here, which is keeping us from advancing any further. But right now we are doing not too terribly. I would like to have known that this place was not contested, but frankly that's a terrible place to try and hold anyway. So anyway, I've got my tank battalion command coming up here, which is going to be tremendously helpful. And my opponent, I've managed to sort of keep them a little bit distracted in a certain sense, but they're repairing up their bunkers pretty well, so yeah, here come more of these mortar teams, and that's sort of typical. I've decided to sort of move all my units back a little bit because they were attacking. I'm going to be able to provide supporting fire up against this sector here, which is going to help out a little bit, but I just need my allies to get sight here, and I'll start firing here. You can see I'm starting to land a few artillery shells on them. Their sniper is forced to retreat back, and yeah, things go relatively okay. I do have to retreat back though. They've got this, I'm not sure what these actually are, SDKFZ 222 with the flat cannon on it, which is kind of nonsense, but yeah, I managed to keep my troops from losing too many of their members, and I've got my T-70 light tank here, so it's actually going to go push through this area that they're trying to capture here before it starts sweeping into their more heavily defended areas, because I was worried that if I went through here there'd be too many Panzerschrecks, which would really destroy my light tank. But fortunately I managed to get wipe out this unit of light troops there, those and my ally as well, their shock troops did quite a lot. So my little T-70 here, yet again, is going to be able to take a couple of good shots against this flak cannon here. I don't think I destroy it, but it does quite well. I'm going to slow down here a little bit because action is actually happening now. But anyway, it's taken a real bad beating from that flak, which is kind of bullshit because that is just a truck basically. But anyway, I'm going to be able to get it retreated back to the front from the front and patched up and repaired, so that's not going to be any sort of big loss here. I would like it if I had some vision somewhere else, but I'm able to move my mortars up so that I can support this capture point that we're getting here, and we're going to be able to take this point no problem, which puts us in sort of the lead right now. We're technically a point and a bit ahead of them, so we're doing okay here. Managed to limp my T-70 back home, and I've got, I think, the T-34 on the way just about soon. I can afford one now, but I think I don't build it quite yet. But yeah, I'm going for those T-34s yet again. I would like to have this doctrine replace like Mark vehicle or something like that with T-35 85s, I think is what they are. But can't always get what you want. Our opponent here, you can see them pushing up with more of these. Actually, no, it's the same SDKF, but they've got their own assault gun now. They've got the Stug 3. This is actually supposed to be sort of more of a anti-infantry one and an anti-infantry position one as opposed to an anti-tank weapon in a certain sense, but it worked well enough against tanks when that's what they ended up having to use it for. It's just that, like, it's got a 75 millimeter gun, so it does pretty well against armor. Still, I've got my guards to get the machine gun that they need. I think that I start using some mortar fire down there, but I can't remember if my guys are in range. Yeah, my mortars start firing away. And guys running up over here are not going to be able to easily punch through my troops. So, yeah, they're in a little bit of a pickle here. They're taking this building with the units there, but that's going to prove to be a bad idea. My T-70 is back in the fight as well, so you can see this here. Firing away at these units in that sort of fortified position there. It's going to work well enough. Ally pushed forward a little bit too close to those rifle troops, and they've taken really bad losses. I'm going to lose these rifle troops as well, if I recall, but because I've got the T-70 sort of roaming around here, it's capable of dealing some good damage to units from the flanks. Yeah, I lose that infantry squad, but I'm not too worried about it. And unfortunately here they've got that Stug, which is going to be too much for my T-70 to handle, but I can take out this SDKFZ, which I think I do. I'm pretty sure I do. Now that actually was a mortar shell that did all that damage, but still, kind of bullshit. So T-70, and yeah, T-34 manages to make it into the front. This isn't going to be the same sort of hero T-70 like there was in the last game, but it's going to be a fairly good one. Yeah, at this point in time, I'm more microing my tanks than anything. Getting this T-34 to chase down the Stug, it's going to do a pretty good job of that, but it does die in the process. T-70, I'm going to have to sit back here and repair it, but that's fine. My guards, rifles, this is a very scattered battle. Like, I'm sort of spread out across various areas. My allies, you know, all the way over here, sort of fighting around here as well, but yeah, I've taken some anti-tank fire. And that's going to prove to be the end of me in this particular case, but I've taken out the Stug, which is a really good sort of pseudo-win for us. The problem is that this this Pack 40 7.5 is going to be able to take out my T-34, which, you know, front armor, that's kind of awful that they managed to get that much damage off on it, because normally they don't deal that much damage from the front against T-34, but they managed to, so that's that. We're contending the central point again. This central point is just a goddamn mess. I think that I'm still firing away at these mortars, though, so they're gaining some good experience. I think they've mostly wiped out that squad around back there. Yeah, they're what's doing most of that, I'm pretty sure. And you're going to see some more hits there take out that anti-tank weapon there. The problem is that we've now got these Sturmpioneers, which are going to be able to chew through those guard rifles. But, you know, is what it is. I haven't gotten anyone in there yet that can fix my T-70, and I'm sending it in what I sort of think is a sacrificial mission, but I think it actually does okay in this particular fight, since I don't let it get too close to their infantry, so it doesn't get completely destroyed there. So, managed to get another T-34 out, so that's good. And these little guys over here, like you can see this T-70, managing to get some good hits against them. And those Sturmpioneers completely annihilated, which is really good for us. The problem here with my T-70, very, very injured, and that's sort of all the armor I've got pushed up. My T-70, or T-34, heading over here. It's, I think, going to find a 7.5mm over here, and I'm going to be able to wipe it out with my tank, but I can't really remember for sure. I'm pretty sure I do. Either way, though, T-70 still here, still doing work. Manages to not get killed by these guys. I think all they have is an anti-tank. Actually, no, I do get destroyed here, I think. Yeah, because they've got the 43 over here, which is enough to take out a light tank like a T-70. Does kill a couple of their Sturm officers before they die, but that's fine. Over here, you can see my tank lighting up these mortar crew, so, you know, that's good. I'm going to drive it up here, if I recall, and start wiping out these mortar crews and all these fortifications over here as well. So I don't have any follow-up troops, though, to exploit the breakthrough, but this is still costing them a lot of resources to suffer taking those hits from my guys. So it's going to work pretty well for me here. So, yeah. Those bunkers aren't free. You do have to pay to build them, so it's not really an ideal situation for my German adversary here. And I've managed to kill a bunch of their troops as well. Those infantry are also fairly pricey, so replacing them will cost them quite a bit. Do manage to retreat a lot of them alive, though, which is the unfortunate part, but still, we'll be able to take out this bunker, no problem. I wish I had known about this Opel Blitz cargo truck, but, you know, that thing is increasing the amount of resources that they're generating from that point, but either way, they've got some traps here that they're putting on this central point. That's fine. I've still got artillery shells screaming in on their heads, if I recall. I might not actually have vision, so I might not be, but yeah, it looks like I am, so. Yeah, they've been forced to retreat back. This booby trap here is going to blow up whatever unit tries to capture it. That's also fine. I've retreated this T-34 back because I figured they're probably coming in with a counterattack, and they have indeed brought a Panzer IV over here, and they're starting to amass their own sort of armor over here. And they're also going to be working on more sort of supplies and more various armor here. At this point in time, I'm mostly just sort of losing bits of infantry. I'm not paying too much attention to them. Now, my guys can actually shoot at this Panzer IV and deal damage to it with that rifle of theirs, but the problem is that Panzer IVs are ridiculously good anti-infantry as well, so they're going to have no problem sending away my troops here. I'm going to send in my T-34 to try and see if I can get some good hits against that guy, but they are going to bring in a Pack 75, so we're going to have to retreat back after taking a couple of hits. Now, I decided to sort of use momentum here. It's risky because they could have gotten in a third shot with something and ended my life there, but I managed to snake away around through this way, also destroying their barbed wire, so that actually is going to free up that lane for my infantry. I'm going to lead in with another T-34, but I figure that with the Pack 34, or the Pack 40 75, it wouldn't be worth it. So I did have to sort of drop back a little bit. At this point in time, I'm thinking about sort of massing artillery to the point where like I can just sort of roll over the German position, and that's what I'm going to be trying to do. He's got this big ball of infantry that he's starting to form up though, which is kind of dangerous. On the other hand, like there's this Pack 40 here and this Panzer IV, which is really dangerous to me since I can't really counter that kind of anti-tank very easily in that sector, especially because I don't have vision. If I had gotten these mortar crews over here and had known about them, I would have probably helped out quite a bit, but taking out this Pack 40 is not necessarily the most easy thing because they've got good defense against infantry and they've got good defense against armor in that sector, so it's a little bit difficult. I'm just bringing in a couple conscripts. They're mostly being used for capturing points like this. Here, actually I'm using guards for that, but I've got stuff like that, and I've got my own ZIS 76, which is a really good anti-tank weapon. I'll be able to take some indirect fire shots up here, which is going to force my opponent out of line of sight of me, so he's going to stop hitting me with bullshit. And I've also got this T-34 over here lending our fire support as well. So the thing to remember about the T-34 is that it is not actually like the T-34, what the hell is it called? 76 is not necessarily an anti-tank weapon in particular. It's actually an infantry support vehicle, technically. It's just a very, very heavy one that can actually fight tanks. It's quite good at taking out things like fortifications, it's good at taking out things like infantry, and it's going to also be quite good at taking out the Schwerwehr Panzer headquarters, which is a very expensive building that my opponent kind of needs. On the other hand, my opponent's able to get in some pretty good things over here. My guards over here have to retreat after capturing this point. That's going to slow them down because they've got their dependence on gas. Now, my T-34 has managed to destroy their thing, and it's now being clipped in by two Panzer IVs, so I have to retreat. Now, a T-34 should be able to take out a Panzer IV, but the problem is, in this particular case, my T-34 is being shot at by two of them. I cannot take out two of those Panzers with my T-34. I do manage to retreat effectively, so my T-34 does not get killed by the enemy, but they do retake this point. So at this point in time, like I've got some guard rifles over here that I forgot about, and they're going to get wiped out by these tanks. You'll see them chip at these tanks a little bit, but it's not going to do anything. I send in a bomb strike with my IL-2s, but they're gonna move, so that's not going to help any. You can see just how poor these guards rifles are at anti-tank duty. Like, yeah, they're not actually good at that particular job, just because they're using such a light weapon. It would have been nice if I had remembered that I had the ZIS 76 and had that pushed up a bit, but anyway, we're still, we still have our T-34s. We've managed to crawl it back here safe and sound, and that is going to help us in the sort of mid to later game. Now remember that early on I defended this sector against two German attackers functionally, and one of them I broke through a lot of his static defenses, which are very expensive. So in this particular sector, like, it's no surprise that we lost here very badly and won here very succinctly. And like the fact that I managed to hold this extra one gave us a little bit of an advantage, but that's not necessarily a big deal. The fact is that I managed to hold onto enough troops that I'm now getting a ridiculous sort of edge on armor, or I will be fairly soon. So that's going to be what's sort of happening here. Like, I've got two T-34s pushed up at the front, I've got one back in base in repairs, and I'm going to have another T-34 being built fairly soon. You can see that I can afford one in just a few seconds here, so that's going to actually give us a pretty decisive edge here. Now, I have got the option to build ISU 152 later on in the game if I feel that this game is dragging on longer, and actually at this point in time I would probably try to stop building as many T-34s just so I can start saving up for this ISU 152. You can see how much this costs. It's ridiculously expensive. So I do think I build like two more tanks though, all in all, but at this point in time, like, it's about sort of maintaining that push and that sort of momentum. Now, here, he gains a little bit of vision using these grenadiers, and my T-34 is going to start firing at them. And you're going to see those guys getting shot at a little bit, but those shots aren't going to do a whole lot of damage to the front armor of my T-34. It does hit my engine, but that's fine. And I'm going to be able to limp this tank out just barely. These infantry get blown a little bit apart, but you can see that after that first T-34 took all his hits, I managed to rotate in another T-34. and it's going to take a couple hits. These guys are going to get completely wrecked by artillery fire and T-34s, but up here I've got another reserve T-34 who will rotate in once I feel like I need it. The problem is it's going to roll straight over these teller mines, which is going to basically suck. Now at this point in time, I actually did issue a move order to these mortars, but they don't move for some reason, so they're going to get just completely freaking owned. Not really a huge deal since it didn't hit anything else, but yeah, it kind of still sucks. Anyway, we've got ourselves in a position where I've got a bit of a breakthrough going on. This one T-34 is going to have to back up just a little bit for a little bit more repairs. I've got this other one back at base, so I've got 4 T-34s now, even though they're quite badly damaged and I have to get them repaired. Now, the problem here is going to be that I sent in this one, figuring that I can use it to exploit the sort of gap that I figure might have opened up here. You know, I end up waiting until this one gets in so that I can sort of use it to cover the retreat of this one. And that's basically what I'm doing, is like, as T-34s move in, I use other units to sort of cover the retreats. So T-34s just keep covering for T-34s and so on and so forth until I'm in the clear. Now this one, I'm moving up here, and I think actually this one might go over the teller mines. One of them does. I can't remember which. Yeah, no, it is this one. So yeah, this one hits the mines, and I'm like, oh shit. Fortunately, this one is the one that gets hit by the flak cannon, but, you know, that still kind of sucks. I managed to get this great shot there that kills the entire crew there, as well as the enemy sniper, so that gives me a really good advantage. Silences that sniper finally. The problem here is going to be that this little engineer crew is going to be able to go and get that anti-tank weapon, so I'm going to have to keep microing my tank. This one is going to have to limp back home. I've got engineering crews fixing up my tanks, getting them back into the fight where possible, but yeah, you're going to see me having to move this tank around in circles to try and get it out of the arc of fire of this Pak-40. Fortunately, the Pak-40 can no longer retreat properly, since you can't issue retreat orders to heavy anti-tank artillery, so it's going to be sort of stuck here. And I'm going to be able to sort of circle it until I eventually wear it down a little bit, but that's perfectly acceptable. Now, over here, we've got our opponents sort of with another Pak-40 7.5, which is, you know, really going to put a damper on my T-34s later on. Over here, we've got Su-85s and T-34-85s, so we've got a heavier tank battalion on this side, and all they've got is a flak panzer over here. There's another flak panzer Ostwind over here, so it actually is going to be able to destroy my T-34 depressingly enough, which I don't think it should be able to easily do, but I am at half health, so that's, I guess, acceptable. Either way, though, we've got ourselves our tanks limping back from repairs, and I'm getting more engineers at this point in time. I haven't really actually started using them yet, but, you know, they're there. You can see, like the problem is that that flak gun just really hits armor hard, even though it's from the front. It's weird because it's got a 37, which normally glance hits the front of tank armor, as heavy as the T-34, so it should not actually be able to damage the T-34s, but you know, that is what it is. Either way, though, we've managed to make a major push through on this particular side. He's got engineers and he's got mortar crews, but he hasn't got anything heavy on this flank anymore. So the fact that that happened means that I'm going to be able to do a very decisive push on through there once I've gotten these tanks fixed up. So you can see my engineer crew is heavy at work here, trying to get these T-34s back into the fight, and I'm building another T-34 to replace the one I just lost, so, you know, they're fairly easy to replace. At this point in time, though, I should stop building those and just start focusing on saving them for an ISU, and building as well, like, gas depots along my side of the map here. Either way. We've got some Sturm officers over here. Not sure what it's doing isolated back in there. It's kind of screwed, but that's fine. You know, you've got counterattacks and attacks over on this flank. It's kind of getting a bit messy, but they have also got the Panzer front here. They've relocated ever since they blew up their other one, and that's going to give us a hard time pushing back on that front. Now they're basically pretty heavily reinforced on both fronts. Fortunately, all they've got here, one Ostwind here as armor. That's all they've got to sort of deal with all my stuff pushing in, once I've got all these tanks fully fixed, which is pretty much now. I'm going to whiff a bomb here because they're going to move out everybody past it, but you're actually going to see it deal a little bit of damage to this Ostwind. it's not really enough that I think it makes a difference of any sort, but at this particular point in time, like, I've got a good decisive push that I can move forward here, and I start to mobilize my troops a little bit. I know that there's pretty stiff resistance on this side, so I'm moving up fairly slowly. I want to sort of have a good angle of engagement, but at this point in time, like, I can't build any more units because I'm pretty much at the population cap, which is kind of ludicrous, but it's still, you know, not really a situation where I feel like I could instantly beat my opponents here. I mean, they've got a pretty commanding position here, but I do start to see some mobilization towards middle, so I figure that with that I can start moving my forces up top to try and crush them. And you're going to see a lot of T-34s just sort of derping around a little bit. I ended up leading the charge since I knew there was still this bunker here, which meant that my infantry would not be able to go in there. But you can see my opponent here, he's got his troops firing away, and they're going to start running to help reinforce mid instead of holding up top lane, or not lane. But yeah, I managed to crush these 3-star Panzergrens, so, you know, that's good. And with the fact that I can sort of rotate in these tanks in and out and start servicing them from a bit further up, it means that I've got a very good position. My opponent knows that he can't actually stop all of that armor that's rolling in, so he starts moving all his troops into middle where they can start doing some good, because, like, realistically, what the hell are they going to do against all these T-34s with what they've got there? I'm kind of controlling my units very badly because they're firing at this MG-42, which is a ridiculously bad idea, but still. We've got this Su-85, which is defending well against this Ostwind. The Flak Panzer has no hope whatsoever against an Su-85 anti-tank gun. I don't build them personally because I think that that job should fall more towards the tanks, but at this point in time, like, I've got my 3 T-34s freed up a little bit, and you're going to see me moving an armored battalion just as a column through the center into this sort of fight here. And they've managed to capture this point, but I've started to capture all the points up top here as I start mobilizing my armor. I'm actually going to move this tank, which is my new T-70, to go take out this Opel Blitz cargo truck. So that's going to work out pretty well for us. But you can just see this, like, armored column of T-34s just barreling down here. And T-34s have sort of become my go-to strategy in the current way the game works, and sort of, I guess, the meta of it. I'm going to accidentally walk there, but they aren't going to actually get a shot off, so... yeah, we're gonna actually swing down and around and eventually actually start trying to attack this Schwer Panzer headquarters. Actually, no, I think we tried to take out the Mechanized Regiment headquarters first, but what you're gonna find is actually our opponents surrender at this point in time. Given the circumstances, like, they had very little here. They've got this Panzer IV, which is capable of defeating what I've got, but the problem is that they're not going to be able to accomplish enough to win them the game before that I managed to destroy, like, everything with these T-34 spam. Now, they've got the 43 anti-tank rocket launchers here, which, you know, would be okay, but they're dealing with way more T-34s than they can actually realistically hit. So, you know, we've got this Mechanized Regiment headquarters locked down. They didn't manage to pin down my T-70, not that it really matters. And that's going to be the match. So yeah, I'm starting to get the kind of the hang of this. The problem in this match, like, was that I was against the Oberkommando player, and there was another German player fortifying the area. I feel like I could have done better in the early game if that wasn't the case, and but I did manage to not panic, and I sort of pulled through in the end. So anyway, I hope you found this enjoyable, and of course, as always, I hope to see you all next time.